Hi everyone, welcome to our Data Visualization Week in TPP 102. Today I'm talking to you about designing your visual space. I'll do this through discussion and demonstration of visual elements and principles. You will notice some new language and maybe some different meanings to words and terms you may already be familiar with. Okay, so for this demonstration I'll be sharing examples of my own paintings to illustrate the design principles and the elements. You'll be designing on a two-dimensional plane known as your screen, your computer screen, which is very similar to me working my whole life on two-dimensional canvases and paper. So those two dimensions are height and width. We refer to this as flat or shallow space, as can be seen in the painting on the left. The flat and shallow space is created through shapes, contouring, and butting up against each other, and just a flat use of color, which means the color is not tinted or shaded to produce any kind of depth illusion. You can see in the painting on the right, there's a lot of mixing and shading, tinting, and blending, which gives the illusion, along with other design principles, of a deeper sense of space. So we'll talk more about how to create the third dimension of depth when we get into talking about the principles. But for now, let's stick with just discussion of the elements. So the main elements of design are point, line, shape, space, negative space, form, texture, and type. So I'll demonstrate and talk a little bit more in depth now about these elements. So we start the elements of design with the lowly point. Just a point on the page. Obviously that becomes a focal point as well, doesn't it? Next we move into line, which is the path of a moving point. And from here we can create shapes. And you can see that what I've created there is a very organic shape. Organic shapes have naturally curvy lines, whereas man-made shapes like houses and construction, buildings, etc., even furniture, generally are very geometric. So we go from the curvy and the soft to the hard and the sturdy. Yeah. We can also call that organic lines and man-made or woman-made. Yes. Next, we're going to look at the space. So the minute you draw something around something, you have both negative space, which is generally considered the background, and positive space, which is generally considered to be the foreground. Okay. And from here, we can create, this creates a form, yeah, which can be accentuated by the illusion of three dimensions. So that we get a nice form happening, and we can also add texture, which is patterning or different kinds of lines, somewhat of a roof, tin roof maybe, not really. We can do all kinds of textures. This one, think of Velcro. What Velcro looks like, it's just a mass of line going in all directions, very chaotic. Or you can have very calming effect of texture. If I think of my cat Mickey and his fur, it's very calming. It's all going in the same direction, and it feels lovely to touch. And you can almost see the texture happening. And there you have it. Elements of design. And then, of course, there's the type or text, which is language in visual form. Aha! The element of color, probably my favorite element, can be described as the chromatic quality of reflected or absorbed light. Yes, I read that. But I do know this one very well. So it starts with the primary colors, which you all would have learned at some point along in your educational journey. Yellow, red, and blue. Secondary colors are made with a combination of the primaries, and then we have intermediate or tertiary colors made with the combination of the secondary and the primaries. Now, also on this slide, you'll see that there are several other words and images. We have analogous color contrasts. There are several other terms and images on the slide which are important to know as a designer, and they begin with the color contrast of analogous, the color relationship rather. Analogous colors are colors that are located together on the color wheel. When we have this kind of color grouping or relationship, we know that it'll be a harmonious design, and you'll notice that. I'll point it out in a painting further down the line in this presentation. So they get along, they're next to each other, their relationship is good. Whereas complementary colors can be contrasting, and they are located opposite each other on the color wheel. And these are great for creating tension in a design because they literally can vibrate when they're placed next to each other. There's a visual vibration. And then we can go on and discuss split complementary. It could get quite complicated. People do spend their whole careers studying and writing and demonstrating color concepts. Over here, we could see that this is just another word for color, hue, and there is our color wheel again. And here below, it's tinted with white, so white lightens it, and black added can create a shade. You can also get shades from mixing complementary color with the hue that you're working with. And what it'll do is it'll automatically dull it out. Yeah. Okay, so there's heaps to learn. You can certainly look up your own extra educational videos, etc., or ask me in the tutorials if you want to know some more. It's interesting. We talked about flat color before, and we've just covered some value making with tints and shades. Values create that depth, which I've already mentioned. I'm just reiterating it because the language that is used to describe this, it's not like chemistry where one thing is one thing. There's many shades of gray, or tints, if you will. And apparently this is interesting information I came across. The first thing the mind sees in an image is color, and it's the last thing that it forgets. So color is really important and deserves a bit of attention when you're designing. Now, moving on to designing with the elements. You've just got some education about what the elements are. Now we're going to move into the principles. And the principles are created through manipulation of the elements. And sometimes you may be after producing a feeling of harmony in your design. So for instance, with color, you'll know to go to some analogous colors or to stay in the one end of the color wheel because all those colors could be considered cool, and like if you divided it there, I would say that those are pretty cool, maybe even that yellow. And then when you start to add the orange and the red and into the darker purples, it becomes hotter. So there's that to consider. There's so much to consider. I'm just giving you a touch here. So other times you might be after chaotic and aggressive, a chaotic and aggressive feel in your design. And for those, I would suggest going with the complementaries as mentioned, or split complementaries, and of course adding shades and darkness to your chaotic design. The thing to remember is that you are in control. So the more you understand your own intentions and the more you understand how to manipulate the elements with the principles, the clearer you can communicate visually and therefore engage your viewers in the way you want to engage them. And especially emotionally, there's a lot of emotion connected with color, and The world knows this. You can see that Italian restaurants use a lot of red, which is meant to activate the lower energies of hunger. While on the other hand, places where you go to relax, maybe to get a massage or a chiropractic adjustment, you may notice that the walls will be painted in a tint or a pastel color such as light blue or light green to calm your nerves. So yes, there's a lot to it. It can get very esoteric, but we won't go there today. So definitely the bottom line of your designing is all about communication. So the more you understand and delve into this, the more effective you will be with your designing. So now let's move into the principles of design. Principles are used to create emphasis through a focal point or leading the viewer's eye to a certain area of the screen. Maybe you want to direct a viewer to push a button or to order a product or whatever it may be. You can also refer to this as directional flow. So this is just more of the visual language. So you create this through manipulating the elements into a composition or layout, that's what we call it. And keep in mind that in our culture, we tend to read from left to right, so people will automatically look at your design from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. So you kind of can go with the flow if you're pointing them towards that direction. Okay, so let's look at some of the principles and how to create them. We'll start with balance. Balance is divided for our purposes into just 3 ways. And of course, you could go crazy, you could do whatever you like, but we do work with symmetrical, radial, and asymmetrical. And there is quite a bit written about the effects of these types of balances on the human brain. Symmetrical tends to feel very stable and strong, as you can see with my painting portrait of this young boy. And I also magnified that feeling with the colors I chose, which happened to look really good on his complexion as well. And he's very stable and stout young man, you can see. Whereas we move over, I'll talk about asymmetrical now, and that simply means that if you divide the space, the plane, in half, you will see that it's different in both sides, whereas this one was the same or similar on both sides. So here we have, again, that directional flow going from left to right, and it creates a really nice movement into the flower, and in the end you see the end of the plane where it gets very dense with lots of action, line, movement, and other colors, contrasting colors, background colors, and you can see that there's a lot of activity. This kind of design is fantastic if you want to show a lot of action, a lot of movement, some chaos, and again, there's another way to direct the eye. Radial, on the other hand, is very centralized, where you have all of the action coming out from a central location. This particular radial balance example is also symmetrical. No matter which way you cut it, it's the same on both sides. So there you have it. And balance overall is what we call the distribution of visual weight. Okay? Equal distribution of positive and negative weight, of visual space rather, can be ambiguous, and which means it can be confusing. And we can see this in our video placed. Sandy put up a video on Gestalt in our weekly materials, and I urge you to watch that and to understand that that kind of a division of space is equal, positive and negative, and it can lead to confusion if you want it to. It's pretty hard to do, so kudos to those artists that create that. Yeah, so next we're going to move on to alignment or rhythm. So we talk about alignment as an orderly arrangement of the elements on purpose into a straight line or a pattern. So when we have patterns happening, it also creates rhythm. And we can divide rhythm into 3 ways: regular, alternating, or progressive. You can see in the painting on this slide that there is a very alternating rhythm, if you will. We've got action going one way with the petals, another way with the stems, and then the petals take in again. So it comes and it goes. It brings the viewer's eye in and out. So it's a manipulation across the plane, again, going into depth and then coming back out of it. I've also produced a pattern of unity here with the colors. You might recognize we have some analogous colors going on. So if you remember that color wheel where we went from yellow into the reds, there's lots of variations on orange in this painting. So it is contrasted a bit with the green and the dark, but all in all, it's quite harmonious of an arrangement. I'm now going to demonstrate how to create some of those rhythms, the 3 rhythms: regular, alternating, and progressive. So visual rhythm is an important design principle to be aware of. And I'm just going to draw 3 boxes here, and we're going to talk about regular rhythm, alternating, and progressive. So these are ways to design your space, and it gives you a little bit of a platform to put your information on. When we talk about rhythm, we also obviously think about sound, and it works the same exact way in a visual. So a regular rhythm is just like a regular beat or a sound. It's the same thing over and over again. Alternating is just what it says. So what might that look like? To me, it would look like that, maybe moving a little so that it's not so regular. Alternating rhythm. Or we might use but you might get the idea. There you go. Whereas progressive is just what it says. It grows. Louder, louder, bigger, darker, better. Boom, boom, boom. Anyway, something to think about. Progressive definitely takes a movement and goes further with it. So it will lead the eye in whichever direction you want it to go. Now we're going to look at another design principle known as creating emphasis through contrast. So this is really fun to do, and it's easy to do. So you guessed it, we're creating contrast, which causes a focal point to happen right there where the flower is. Okay, and I did it here through manipulation or changing the shape and the color. So in this case, we went from the free-flowing, organic, natural lines of the leaves into some very organic as well, but straight shape, forms a cone, very different than the leaves, and obviously we've got the contrast of color. So the human eye will go right to that spot. Okay, now over here you can see that I've manipulated and created a focal point through the contrast of size and a little bit of psychology. And this is something that we all have access to because we're used to seeing images every day in our lives. And it's really fun. There's a bit of irony and humor, as you can see in this painting, which, by the way, was very large. It was 5 feet by 4 feet or something like that. And the Barbie dolls are something we see as we grow up. We see them on commercials. They're everywhere. So that's the psychology of it and the size. Barbie dolls are not larger than the human male. Next, let's look at a final demonstration, which I promised you earlier, creating 3D through linear one-point perspective. And this is just a refresher because you've already done this, no doubt, at some point in your educational journey. I'm starting out by defining my space, and we literally will start with a point, a dot, and that is also known as the vanishing point. Okay? And through the vanishing point, I'm going to draw a horizon line, horizon, horizontal line. And did you know that as you move, the horizon will always move with you? So if you're kneeling, you can see a lot of sky or a lot of space and just a very low horizon line, because the horizon line will always be at your eye level. When you stand up, that horizon will lift with you. It's an interesting phenomenon that you can play around with. Now, from the vanishing point, we're going to apply more lines. And these lines are going to come out and spread to the bottom of the page. And as they do, they get wider. Okay, so other tricks of the trade, we're going to do the old train track trick, train tracks, as you saw on the slide. And we're going to, over technologicalized here. I'm used to a regular old pencil. Meanwhile, our train tracks go horizontally, and they're very, very small up near the vanishing point and the horizon line, and they get larger as they come towards the foreground. They also have more space between them, and we can add some dimensionality to them because we know that they are made of wood and that they have a certain thickness. So I'm doing this quickly and without a ruler, just to give you the quick demonstration. And there you have it. They're getting thinner and thinner to the point where you can only see them as a singular line. Now we want to put in some trees. Now in order to do that, I'm going to put some basic lines in on the diagonal, which will serve as a template to put our trees. And here we're going to start with some vertical barks of the trees. And they go straight up, not on an angle, and they once again get smaller as they go towards that vanishing point horizon. Pause. So we're just making them bigger and bigger. And going quickly here, filling in the space nonetheless. And we're going to put some nice, juicy tops on these trees. There's no drought happening here at the moment. And again, that's good. Small and small. And then there's a rhythm here. I'm almost making it up with sound as well. There you go. Finally, let's get some action going in the very background. Okay, so things in the background can look a little hazy. So I'm using not even a full line here, just an indication of some mountains in the background. We call that atmospheric perspective. Yep, and as well clouds. So I like to put my foreground clouds at the top of the page because they get smaller and smaller as they go towards the horizon line as well, just like everything else in the image. So there's a couple of tricks to manipulate the space. You're working now, you could surely see that there is a designated foreground, a midground, a background. And this can be accentuated through the use of color. If you've noticed, you can flip back through the slideshow and see some of the paintings. There was darker paint, more pure hue at the top, white added and blended as we go down towards the horizon line, till it's almost atmospherically white. And that is actually how we perceive the world around us in reality, not just in the virtual reality that we're creating here. So that's the end. I hope it was helpful. So there you have it. You've had a peep through the elements of design, how to manipulate them, and utilize the principles of design to express your intentions visually. So I hope that was helpful, and it gives you a little bit more confidence in completing your assignments for 102 and for all your courses. And if you have any questions or additional information, I know in my tutorials I've got a few artists, so please feel free to contribute on our 102 discussion board or through email or in our tutorial Zoom sessions, workshops, etc. So have fun. This is meant to be fun as well as effective. Thank you.